Good morning. So it's 10 o'clock. I see people are still entering the room, but we're going to get started in the interest of time. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. We should have a good turnout. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here today for today's presentation. As you know, today's presentation is about fintech, which is and has been a rising focus in the banking world. At its core, fintech is utilized to help companies, business owners, and consumers better manage their financial operations, their processes, and their lives. Mobile banking and digital payment platforms are bridging the gap for those far from bricks and mortar banks and credit unions and financial institutions, or in the case of generational preferences like Gen Y and Gen Z, fintech is offering essential services like money transfers, bill payments, and savings accounts all digitally. And so we are so glad to have with us today a partner at StrategyCorps, Dave DeFazio, who has found great success and satisfaction in exploring the intersection of data, marketing, and technology. In fact, he shared with me that he likes to download banking apps for fun. So this is someone who is fully immersed in fintech. Across the industry, Dave is a highly sought after speaker who has shared thought leadership on innovations in financial technology, retail banking, mobile banking, customer engagement, product and customer profitability, product design, bank marketing, and changing consumer behaviors in an increasingly mobile-centric world. Dave actually was recommended by several credit union executives, MSIC member credit union executives, who attended the AI CPA Credit Union Conference this past October. And so I'm really pleased that MSIC is able to make this introduction to all of you. Before I hand it over to Dave, just a quick comment on today's format. We have time allotted for a Q&A following Dave's presentation. So you can send your questions during the presentation via the chat box that's usually found in your lower right-hand corner, and we can wait until, after Dave's done, and once he concludes, we'll address those, or you can hold on to them until the end of the presentation. The other option is if you'd like to speak, you can raise your hand, I can unmute you, and then you can ask your question yourself. And with that, I am going to welcome Dave DeFazio.
All right. Thank you, Erica. I so appreciate this opportunity to share some of my thoughts with the group today, and what a privilege it is. So thank you to you and the MSIC for reaching out, and we'll jump in and get started. Just let me set up my screen here. And you're able to see my screen okay?
I can see it. Good to go.
All right. Okay, great. That back in view. All right. So, hey, everyone, I appreciate you taking a minute with me today. My name is Dave DeFazio. The name of my presentation today is Fintech Transformers, The Rise of Primacy. That's a pretty catchy title, right? So we'll have some fun with that. I'll show you here on the screen. There are my digits. So if I do a good job today, I hope that you'll take a moment to go out and find me on LinkedIn or on Twitter and connect with me there. And so when you think about fintech and how specifically that word transforming, how it's changing the way we think about banking, I'm curious if anybody has started studying any of the AI stuff that's happened. In fact, maybe give me a yes in the chat box there if you've downloaded and played with ChatGPT at all. So I'm very curious about this. And so I've been watching and looking and researching and reading everything I can about AI. And then I stumbled across this, which I thought was pretty funny. So it turns out there was this guy, and he found one of these AI art programs that create fancy pictures. You'll see the one that he created there on the screen using an AI tool, except he entered it into an art contest and he won, and he ticked off all the other artists. If I zoom in, you can read his quote there. I won and I didn't break any rules. So I thought immediately, this guy's a genius. And two, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could use some of these cool new AI art tools to help make my presentations better. So fast forward, I have a bit of a confession to make to the group here today. I've been using the same headshot for my speaking engagements for quite some time now. What's the way to say it? Maybe it's just a bit past its prime. So you'll see me there as a slightly younger man. And I thought, well, maybe this is it. Maybe I could use one of these AI programs to help me update my headshot to make it a little better reflection of what reality is. Now, I don't know about you. I'm excited about these tools, but maybe I'm a little bit concerned or scared too about how good they are, how much they're going to take over our lives. Is anybody else as concerned as I am? And I was kind of blown away when I asked this AI art program to help me, and immediately it came back with this. So I don't know about you, but I think it's like looking in a mirror. And so I showed this to my wife, and she was a big fan of the new AI art programs. I think her exact quote was "hubba hubba." So, okay, enough goofing off. I am going to talk about technology today. And as I go around the country and talk about the things that I'm studying and how I'm trying to, process them for my own business, I'm amazed at how many deer in the headlight looks I get back when I show people the stuff that I'm studying. And so today, my hope is that as I share a few of my thoughts and experiences with you, that it'll make you just a little bit more curious. Maybe you won't go out and download banking apps for fun, but maybe you'll be curious enough to study some of these new products and how they're impacting our industry. Now, I think on my very first day in the banking industry, I learned about the concept of PFI, primary financial institution. Everybody knows that, right? It's been the centerpiece of our industry for many years. But it's my contention that with all of these technology changes, the very definition of PFI is changing from primary financial institution to primary financial interactions. So I was taught as a young banker that, hey, you win an anchor product, and then as people's lives change, just always have the right product there to cross sell them, and before you know it, you'll have a grand share of wallet and massive relationships. And in my view, those days are over. And so what do I mean by that? I think it's useful to look at it, maybe through the lens of a real customer. So maybe it's somebody like me. There's my shot again. And if I zoom out a little bit, you'll see this is how I categorize my financial life. I started thinking about the ways that I'm using banking products. And so maybe you'll grab your phone. I'm the presenter that encourages you to look at your phone during my presentation. And when I grab my phone and I just look at all the banking apps that I have in those different categories, many of them I've just downloaded in the last few years since the pandemic. I'm blown away at how much my financial life has changed in just these last months and years. Now, again, maybe some of you aren't as weird as me to download this many apps, but I'll bet that section there called digital payments, probably a lot of similarities to your phone. So how many of you are like me and you have more than one P2P payments app? Maybe you use PayPal for this, or Cash App for that, or Venmo for that. So many people using multiple apps there. How many of you are like me and you have the Starbucks app and you keep a few dollars in the Starbucks app to pay for your transactions, right? And so today in Starbucks stores, I've read that almost half of the transactions that occur in their stores today will occur through the app on a mobile device. It's a mind-blowing statistic. And so now those days that we used to count on of having no competitors is what I said is over, right? And now at the end of every one of these categories, we've got these amazing fintech companies that are reimagining the way that financial services works, and they're reinventing financial advice. And so today I'm going to share with you some of my experiences with some new products and technology that I've been studying in our industry. I just love this quote. I think I show it in every single presentation that I ever give, but a person's last experience is their new expectation. Isn't that good? And so I just love it. I think once you try something the cool way, nobody wants to go back and do it the old boring way. So I'm going to show you some new products that I've been testing out, and maybe it will make your brain turn in a little different way. And maybe you'll keep asking that question, how are these new products changing the expectations of our members and how they want to do their banking with us. So to illustrate that, I'm going to show you some experiences that I've been having with some new payment tools. I'm going to talk a little bit about digital wallets today. Wasn't it such a privilege, pre-pandemic, that every single time somebody wanted to do a transaction, what would they do? They would reach into their wallet, they would pull out their physical debit or credit card. It would have your logo, staring at them with every single transaction that they made. But now, so much of our transaction behaviors are migrating to digital experiences where oftentimes we can be out of view or even invisible in some of those transactions. So I'll talk a little bit about some new tools that I'm studying there. I'm going to talk today about financial health, and namely how some new fintechs are trying some cool new innovations with some old products that have been around in our industry for a long time, and how that's communicating a new form of financial health to consumers. But I'm going to start today by visiting some predictions that I made in my speeches a few years ago. And that can always be kind of a risky thing if you're making predictions about the future. Sometimes people will go back to check and see if you're right. But, lucky for me, I'm not a superstitious kind of person. I'm just a little stitious. These are the good jokes, by the way, so you have to work with me here. And a few years ago, I made some predictions about a service that's called Amazon Go. I wonder if any of you have heard about this thing called Amazon Go. So I discovered it a few years ago. In fact, here's a picture of me on a chilly day in Seattle. You'll see the date down there, back in 2018, standing in front of the Amazon Go store. This was the very first store that they built as a test concept. It was right down in the bottom floor of the headquarters building at Amazon. And if you haven't heard of Amazon Go before, the idea behind this is something that they call just walk out shopping. And you'll see there at the bottom, in fact, there are no lines. There's no checkout at an Amazon Go store. So instead, if you want to shop there, in this initial concept, you would have to download the Amazon Go app. You would enter and log in with your Amazon Prime membership. And then once you got to the front of the store, you would scan in with your phone. In fact, if you look there in the upper right, you can see the little green arrows that are pointing at the scanners. So you scan in with your phone, the doors open, and then once you get in, it looks pretty much like any kind of traditional convenience store, quick grab items you'll see there on the shelves. But when you zoom in on the ceiling, you'll see what's different. Can you see it there? The whole ceiling is just covered with cameras. And so the way this works is that when you scan in with your phone, it would use AI, facial recognition, and machine learning, and it would watch you and your patterns as you moved around the store. It would monitor the products that you would take on or off of the shelves. And then at the end, you just walk out of the store, and like magic, it charges you for the right things. So I took a little video of some people coming in and out of the store. You'll see on the left here, you see him logging in with their phones there. And then on the right, can you see the people walking out with their orange Amazon Go bags? So that's how you check out at the Amazon Go store. And I'm the kind of guy that likes to put things to the test, right? So on my visit to the store that day, I tried to throw everything that I could think to confuse or fool the cameras, right? So I would take one product off or two products off and put one on and put two back on and three off. I would take a product here, move it over here, put it back there. I even tried the two candy bars at once trick to see if it could get that. And despite all the shenanigans that I was doing in that store today, I left and it got my purchase exactly right. And my mind was blown. And so I made a prediction that day as I was walking out. I said, they're going to do this at Whole Foods. And this had been just a short time after Amazon had acquired Whole Foods. Now, some people think that my prediction wasn't very bold you'll see there on the left a shot inside of the Amazon Go store. They had the Whole Foods logo inside. But as I talked to the people that worked there for a few minutes, they said, yeah, this store is kind of a big test concept. We're trying to figure out, how do people really want to convenience shop? Do they want us to put the ingredients in a box so they can take it home and make it? Do they want us to make it here so they can take it home and eat it? And it started going through my head, and I recalled some interviews that I read with the Whole Foods CEO. And maybe you'll remember, prior to their purchase by Amazon, Whole Foods was struggling financially. But the CEO said, far and away, the most profitable part of a Whole Foods store is the ready-made deli section. And I don't know about you, but I do some of my shopping at Whole Foods. And since the acquisition by Amazon, the deli section of the store keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And gosh, it seems like about a third of the store where I shop are now these ready-made, quick go grab items. So I said, hey, look, I think they're going to do this. And if they did that, gosh, I wouldn't do my shopping anywhere else, is what I thought. So I thought it would be interesting to go see whatever happened to this Amazon Go concept. So a few months ago, I was surprised to go to the App Store. I went looking for the Amazon Go app, and it's not there anymore. You won't find it if you go searching for it today. But instead, Amazon has evolved the Amazon Go concept to something that they call Amazon One. And they have this working in more than 200 locations all around the country, including almost 100 Whole Food stores. And so you'll see there, it looks a little bit different in the check-in. I'll talk about that here in a moment. And if you do your shopping at Whole Foods, even if you don't have the scan to enter function that's been implemented yet, look for the Amazon One logo at the checkout stations. More on that in just a moment. So every Whole Foods has some form of this Amazon One technology already working. And Amazon is testing this concept in other kinds of retail locations. I thought this one was really exciting. They're doing it at stadiums and ballparks. Isn't that the biggest drag about going to a game, that you've got to go down and stand in line at those crazy concession lines? Like, nobody enjoys that, right? So instead, how cool would it be if you want to take a break from the game, you go down, you walk into a place like this, you just grab whatever you want, grab your hot dog and a beer, and just make it back to your seat, and it'll be so much faster and more convenient. That would be awesome, right? So they're doing this at Climate Pledge Arena. They're doing it at Lumen Field, where the Seahawks play. And Amazon is now selling this Amazon One technology to other retailers, including this one that's called Hudson. Have you all seen these Hudson convenience stores? They've got them in practically every airport around the country, right? And now at certain airports, they're testing out a new concept that's called Hudson Nonstop. And you'll see a few of the airports that are listed there, including the airport where I live in Nashville. That's BNA. And so for the past year or so, I've been testing out and enjoying my shopping trips to the Hudson Nonstop store here at the airport. And so when I get to the airport, I'm a road warrior. I'm in airports practically every week, sometimes every day during the week. And when I get to the airport, I'm trying to stay productive. So I think I've got this little road warrior checklist that I go through each time I get to the airport. So when I get there, I'm trying to get through security as fast as I can. I'll go fill up my water bottle on my way past the security gate. I'm going to go grab a healthy snack. I'm going to get set up at the gate, get my computer going, and that helps me stay productive as I'm on the road. But when I go shopping for my healthy snack run, it's completely changed now that this Hudson Nonstop store has opened. Do you remember my quote from the beginning? A person's last experience is their new expectation. Even before I show you what it looks like to shop here, I want you to guess how many other convenience stores I've visited at the Nashville airport since this store has opened. And if you're guessing anything other than 0, you're making a bad guess. So now when I go to make my healthy snack run, it describes my shopping trip as easy as 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to enter with my credit card, do my shopping, and then I'm good to go. I can walk straight out. So I also took a little video of some people checking in at the Amazon or at this Hudson nonstop store. So as I play the video, you can watch the woman on the left. You'll see it says enter with your card. She tries to tap, and it's insert your card. So she does. It's going to do a quick balance check, I'm sure. And now you'll see the door opens, and her shopping trip has just begun. And just like I mentioned before, quick grab items, all the things that you would typically expect in an airport convenience store. But just like before, the ceiling is covered in cameras. But look how different they look from that initial concept. And I was in one of these stores, Hudson Nonstop stores in Dallas, and it was out in the middle of the aisle at the airport. Like, there's nothing over top of it. And I'm just blown away at how flexible they can put them anywhere, right? And so if I zoom in, you can see how small the cameras are, how many of them are, how they're pointed in different directions. And it's an amazing feat of technology, AI, machine learning, facial recognition, and it's a pretty amazing thing. Now, when I'm doing my healthy snack runs, I'm not using my card at the Hudson nonstop store, but instead, you also have the option to pay with your palm. Like, how does that even work, right? So the first time that you register with your card, it asks if you would like. You don't have to do this, but if you want, you can hover your hand over that little circle that's there. It will create a connection with your card and your palm. And now look at how I go shopping at the airport when I'm making healthy snack runs. I took a little video. All right, so I'm going to scan in with my palm here. Opens up. So I'm going to walk through the store here. Let's head first for the healthy snacks. Gotta think healthy. I'm going to go for some of these. Now I'll look up, you can see all the cameras that are on. Oh, Goo Goo clusters. Okay. All right, and that's my shopping trip at the Hudson store. Did you see how I was setting up that healthy snack joke? Okay, so who's heard of Goo Goo clusters before? That's our official candy of Nashville. So they're made right here in Nashville. And just for the record, they are not healthy snacks, but my goodness, they are yummy. So if you make a visit to Nashville, make sure you grab a Goo Goo cluster when you're at the airport. Now, I have a new prediction that I'm making about Amazon One today, and so I thought I would share that with you. I think they're going to try to do this at the airports, that they're going to try to be the check-in station at TSA, kind of like what Clear does today. But I was interested. I went out and started reading some interviews with the product people at Amazon, and they said one reason that they chose the palm instead of something like your eyes is that you have to be a little bit more intentional about, who you expose your palm to, right? It reminds me of that movie with Tom Cruise called Minority Report, where he's walking around and the computers are reading his eyes and making, advertisements to him. So I felt like, gosh, if it were me, I'd feel much more secure using my palm versus my eyes for checking in. And you'll see there on the screen, they're selling this service to other retailers, using it at what I mentioned, stadiums, maybe even office buildings. So think of maybe having your employee ID or ID card instead of a card, it's just your palm. All kinds of potential uses for this. So it'll be interesting to see that. Now, in the comments, maybe you'll let me know how many of you would be comfortable connecting your palm to your payment card. That's an interesting question. I feel okay about it, but not everybody would. There have been some concerns around it. You'll see the headline there, but this also shows that Amazon is aggressive. They have sold this service. Panera is expecting to launch this across their store platform. So it'll be fun to see how this changes our expectations. I call it the Amazon Prime effect. So much of how I think about shopping is defined by the experiences that I have with Amazon. And now we've got to think about that, how that affects our industry and how payments work, right? So that leads me to my next little segment here. I call P is for payments. And I want to talk a little bit about digital payments and how those are affecting our world. And so you'll see here, I don't even have to ask you, raise your hand if you're doing digital payments. Since the pandemic, most of us have adopted some kinds of digital payment behaviors. But it's interesting to see how consumer expectations are evolving, particularly when we do research with consumers about digital wallets. And so this idea of keeping a place where you can digitally store the cards and things that you use. How many of you are using digital wallets more and more? I have an iPhone. I use the digital wallet that's on my iPhone a lot. I use it for payments, but I also use it for many other things. I'm using it for my boarding passes when I'm at the airport. I use it for my frequent traveler programs with my cards that are there. I live in Nashville, the live music capital of the world. And I love going to live music shows. You can see on my background there all the show prints that I grab when I see live music. And now at most of the venues in Nashville, there are no live tickets anymore. You just, show them a QR code or even do a Bluetooth ticket on your phone. It's amazing, right? And so convenient. But when we ask consumers, where do you think you should get a digital wallet? I know the print's kind of small, but if you look there at the dark blue bar on the top, 54% of consumers say, gosh, it makes sense to get a digital wallet from a bank. They think transactions, of course, that goes with banking. But if you look at the bottom and we ask people, what kind of things do you want from a digital wallet? Look at the things that they list there. They want store loyalty programs. They want ease of use and deals and deep integration into their financial lives. And when I read that list of things, you know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of the Starbucks app, right? That's the Starbucks app that people are describing, right? And so now most of the community size credit unions that I work with, they're kind of struggling to think about, what is our place in this? How are we going to survive in competition for digital wallet behaviors with, people like, like Apple or Android or Square, right? Look at this on the screen. Obviously, Square has made quite big strides with the retailers on the left, many payment systems. On the right, how many of you know that Square is also the owner of Cash App? And now, since the pandemic, there are more than 100 million Cash App users, 100 million. And what you see here on the screen, this is a digital wallet strategy, connecting payments to consumers by using their phones and apps. PayPal doing a very similar thing. These, I think, are going to be two dominant players, not just in digital wallets, but for all of financial advice and financial products. I've mentioned already my use of the wallet that's on the iPhone, or maybe you on your Android phone. The big banks are waking up to this challenge, and they are trying to respond. And so you'll see here an announcement that the mega banks made. You know that the mega banks are the owners of Zelle, right? And they announced that they're going to be launching some digital wallet functions through Zelle. So the way that they're showing that this will work here is, anywhere that you see those Apple Pay buttons or Android Pay buttons, you would imagine a Zelle Pay button that might live there. Pretty smart strategy if you ask me. Like any time that I see an Apple Pay button as a payment option, that's the one that I'm going for, because I know that the transaction is going to be secure using tokens on my phone. It's going to be fast. Like I'm not going to have to punch in my address and do all the card numbers and expiration dates. And so for me, if it's safe and fast, that's the way that I'm going to do it. So it'll be interesting to see if the big banks make it as easy to use as Apple. What they're describing there doesn't sound quite so easy, but I'll wait till I have a chance to test it out. So what do you do if you're a community-sized institution? If you're going to think about your place in this digital payments ecosystem, I think the place to start is thinking a lot about payments. In fact, I ripped off this quote from my friend Ron Shevlin. He's the lead researcher at Cornerstone. We've been financing a portion of his research now for the past several years, and he wrote an article about payments a while back, and I just love this quote. Payments should be considered the fifth P of marketing. Genius way to think about it. So when I started thinking, how would I, if I were a banker, start, adjusting my strategy? So I grabbed my phone, and eventually it kind of organized itself into this. I went and I looked at all the apps that I have on my phone where I have a card entered into that app. They call that a card on file, right? And so you'll see on the screen here several of the apps that I have on my phone where I have a card on file, and I kind of sorted them into some categories that are there. And then it hit me. If you're a community size institution, gosh, I don't know how you're going to compete with PayPal or Apple or Amazon, but I do think that the place to start is, why don't we just try to be the card on file for our members in the apps that they use the most? Be the card on file, right? And so I thought maybe this is a way to start your journey on that. Now, I want you to raise your hand if you do at least some of your shopping at these companies. Who's made a purchase at Amazon this year? How about this week? And who's shopping on Amazon right now? I catch somebody in every one of my presentations. So obviously, all of us are doing transactions with these companies. So maybe you do this. Grab the checking account transactions at your credit union. Find the accounts that don't have any transactions showing up with any of these retailers. And what does that tell you? Well, what it would tell me is that those members are shopping at these companies, but they're not using your cards or accounts to do it. So that means their card on file is somewhere else. And I would suspect that their primary account is also somewhere else. And so if you can find these people that don't have these transactions, then maybe we can start some promotional offers to them. So the one that's at the top, I'll admit that I stole from one of my clients. It's a credit union in Southern California called CBC, Federal Credit Union. It's a great credit union. They do lots of really creative things. You should go look them up. So the top one is something that Rick Weber, their CEO, told me about. He said, Dave, every Amazon Prime Day, the biggest shopping day of the year, we make an offer to people who don't have us as their card on file. We just tell them, hey, look, today, if you make a purchase at Amazon Prime Day and you use our card to make that purchase, we'll give you a little bit of cash back up to some small limit. So they don't have to spend a ton of money. And what Rick told me is, guess what happens? Every Amazon Prime Day, they're getting a few more members and a few more members and a few more members that are switching their card on file to their bank. And guess what that means? They're getting more primary members, their balances are growing, their transactions are growing, and so they're getting a deeper share of wallet just by thinking about basic banking behaviors. And so I dreamed up a couple of offers maybe that you could describe about some of those other retailers as well. Is this resonating with all of you? I thought Rick had a genius idea. Now, my next segment I call the Lord of the Ring. Do we have any Lord of the Rings fans out there? I just watched it again a few weeks ago. And so today I want to show you a new product that I've been testing out from a bank that's called Quantic Bank. It's actually a real bank. They're located in New York, and it's kind of a sleepy little community bank. And one day they kind of woke up and said, we've got to find a way to make our bank more relevant as things change with technology and digital payments. And so just about a year or so ago, they introduced a new debit card from Quantic Bank, and I've been testing it out, and I want to show it to you here today. In fact, I've got it right here. Do you see it? So this ring that I'm wearing is my new debit card from Quantic Bank. Isn't that cool? So they call it the pay ring. You'll see your debit card evolved. That's a good tagline, right? So when I heard about this, I'm like, I got to try this. That sounds really cool. So I opened up a Quantic Bank account. If you know your ring size, they'll send you the appropriate ring. If you don't know your ring size, that's okay. They'll send you actually a ring sizing kit so you can get just the right fit. And then they'll send you the ring in this cool looking package. And so I got my ring and I thought, okay, how can we put this to the test? And so I came up with the idea that I would make a shopping run to the Franklin Farmers Market. So I live near Nashville, near a little town called Franklin. There's an amazing farmers market that's here. My wife and I love shopping there. And so I thought to myself, gosh, if it can work there, it can work anywhere, right? So I grabbed my ring and we made a trip down to Franklin. Now, I want you to guess if you see here on the screen, do you see that? What is that? That's a Square terminal, right? So out of 6 transactions that I made that day at the Franklin Farmers Market, I want you to guess how many of the merchants were using Square terminals. Did anybody guess all 6? Because that was the answer, right? And the reason is that, gosh, it's just so darn easy, right? For these small merchants, they can download the Square app. They can go to a Walmart, for crying out loud, to grab one of the Square terminals. And in just a bit, they can be up and running, collecting payments for their small business. Then if they want to use it, customers, practically anywhere can insert their cards to pay. They can tap to pay if they have the tap to pay functionality turned on. On my trip to the farmers market that day, 5 out of 6 of the merchants had the tap to pay functionality turned on. But how do you do a transaction with this ring? Well, Quantic describes it as a knock to pay transaction. So if you'll see here, if I'm knocking, I'm getting that ring in a parallel position right above the chip. And so I asked my wife to snap a few shots of me as I was making purchases, and you'll see me there making a purchase while I was at the farmer's market. And I'll admit to you that I've been knocking out payments all over town with this thing. And I think the reason that I've been using it so much is that every single time I use it, I get a reaction. So sometimes the reaction is I reach out ready to knock and people reach out their hand thinking that I'm trying to hand them something. Sometimes when I reach out with my fist, people pull their Square terminal back thinking I'm trying to pull something fishy on them. And then most of the reactions I get are like the reaction that I got this time from my new friend Jim Anderson. He's the owner of the Buck Snort Trout Ranch. That's a real place here in Tennessee. And you'll see Jim's beautiful fish there that he was selling at the farmer's market. So what happens? Jim holds out his terminal. I reach out, give it a knock, and it lights up when the transaction is connected. And so you can just see people's face like, what was that, right? And that's what Jim said. What was that? And gosh, I've never seen anything like that before. So I'm like a walking billboard for Quantic Bank as I'm making these purchases. And it makes me feel cool, right? In fact, do we have anybody out there that collects vinyl records? So I live in Nashville, which is a great place to live if you want to collect vinyl records. We've got stores everywhere. And I'll admit to you that I'm not usually the coolest cat hanging out at the record store in Nashville. Can you believe that? But now when I go to my favorite record store and I walk in, guess what the guy behind the desk says? He says, "Hey, ring guy." So all of a sudden, I'm kind of a big deal at the record stores here in Nashville. So it makes me feel cool and hip while I make my purchases. So I started with a Lord of the Rings reference today, and so I'm going to end with a Lord of the Rings reference on this section. So on my trip to the farmer's market that day, I used one ring to buy them all. Look at my bounty there. Isn't that a good looking bunch of stuff? Okay, next I'm going to talk a little bit about financial health. I mentioned that I'm going to show you some fintechs that are doing new things with some old products. And my story here starts, I was out reading a little bit about low income certified financial institutions. Do we have any credit unions out there that are CDFI certified? And I was reading about it, and then about the same time I was reading about CDFI certification, I stumbled across the Investor Day presentation from Chase Bank. And when I think of Chase Bank, I don't think of them as the low-income certified financial institution. In fact, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, the original home of Bank One. So I've been watching, interacting with Bank One nearly all of my life. And if you asked me to think in one word how to describe Chase, I would have called them the wealth bank. They're just so good at targeting high income households. But when I was flipping through their Investor Day presentation, I was surprised to see this, the very first page of their consumer banking section. And look at the red circle. Chase is shifting their focus. And it said, we're going to increase that focus on trying to aim at younger and low to moderate income segments. And I thought, gosh, that doesn't sound like the Chase that I know. And then, in fact, on the next page, it shows in the red circle there, they're already doing pretty good here. Look at that. What's it say? 45% of their customer base are in that Gen Y and Gen Z segment. Are any of you even tracking this statistic? I bet you it's not 45% at your credit union. So already they're off to a great start. And then I was reading the Chase presentations, and then I started reading this report from the CFPB called the Consumer Credit Card Market Report that they release to Congress every couple of years. Now, think what you want about the CFPB. I know that there are controversies there in terms of their relationship with financial institutions, but this was a good report. It had interesting information. It organized it in a thoughtful way about the financial health of our country. I thought this was a good view of how to think about percentages of the population, from super prime down to subprime, or people that don't have credit reports or credit scores at all. And then when you add it all up, it's pretty staggering. There are nearly 50 million people in the United States that don't have credit scores, or can't be scored, invisible. And when you think about these people, they still need financial products, right? In fact, in the CFPB report, they showed that if you look at the applications for traditional credit cards, the people in these subprime and no score categories are at the top of the list for credit card applications. They need credit, but as you might guess, they're at the bottom of the list for approvals for traditional credit cards. So how do we help these kinds of populations? So in the CFPB report, they talked about what they called secured credit card innovation. So you've all heard of secured credit cards, right? These have been around in our industry for many, many years. In fact, your credit union either has or maybe currently offers a secured credit card option. And when you look at the stats on people that use these cards, it really does help people. As you would expect, I listened to a presentation from Visa. They report that the people that use secured credit cards on average increase their credit scores by 24 points. But the next stat that they shared kind of blew my hair back. I just thought it was an amazing statistic. 1 in 4 people that use secured credit cards eventually turn into super prime credits. And that's when it hit me. That's why Chase is doing this. It's why they're shifting their focus. Look at all these stats. They see a huge population of people that is currently underserved by the banking industry. They need credit, but they're not getting it. And now, just like Visa's showing here, if they can bring the right products to these people, not only will it help those consumers, but it's a pretty good business model. Chase can be offering products that have a huge gap and opportunity in the marketplace, and eventually those people will turn into their best customers of the future, right? And so the CFPB report was practically an advertisement for some of these companies that are innovating around secured cards. gosh, that'd be a great screen to take a picture of and go out and download some of these apps. And some of these apps do an amazing job. They're rethinking how financial advice works, and they're really changing the expectation of how consumers think your product should work. And I'll give you another amazing stat. 50%, nearly 50% of the checking accounts that have been opened this year have been opened with digital banks, non-traditional financial institutions. And many of them opened at these apps that you see here on the screen. So I wanted to study a couple of these. And so I went out, downloaded these apps. I started studying the different companies, and I was really impressed at how out of the box thinking they are. In fact, some of you already know about this, maybe even if you don't know it. Maybe you've heard of Chime. They were one of the first popular neobanks. Back in 2020, they spent $50 million in advertising, and a lot of it was centered around advertising something that they call Get Your Paycheck 2 days early. How many of you have heard of Get Your Paycheck 2 days early? Probably all of you, right? Now, how many of your credit unions are doing Get Your Paycheck 2 days early on your checking accounts? I'll bet not many of you are. Guess how many of the mega banks are doing Get Your Paycheck 2 days early? Almost all of them are offering this. Why? Because these non-traditional apps are putting pressure on their ability to acquire these younger consumers. So they've got to keep up with the times. These are new expectations about how your products should work. So how are these companies communicating with these kinds of consumers? I found a good advertisement from one of them that's called MoneyLion. And when I think about it, sometimes when we think of people that are struggling financially, maybe one of the reasons that they struggle financially is they're not good at buying financial products. And so if we can make it easier or better or show them how these products can help, that is surely to help us advance our cause here. So I was really impressed at how simple this advertisement from MoneyLion is, and I want to play it here for you today.
Let's get to green together. Building your credit is easier than you think with Credit Builder Plus. Open an account to get a $500 loan. Then get your loan. You'll get access to some of it now, while the rest of it's held in your credit reserve account, which unlocks once you pay off the loan. Make payments on time to build a positive payment history. You pay, we report. Watch your credit build during the life of the loan. And that's how we get to where we need to be. Green.
All right, isn't that a great, simple advertisement? And think about that. Maybe somebody who doesn't quite know how to get themselves out of the situation that they're in, maybe this is just the message to help them see a path, where they could make some important changes for their family. Now, I thought it was interesting how they, communicated some other things and how the business model of this works. So you'll see here, it talks about how the cards work, all the things that you can do, but look at that section there on the right. There's actually a subscription fee for this secured credit card. It's $19.99 a month, but you'll see on the right, MoneyLion gives their customers a chance to buy down the subscription fee. So you'll see there at the top, if you're able to make 20 purchases using your MoneyLion card, what is that doing? It's building primacy, creating interchange revenue for MoneyLion, and you log into the mobile banking app at least 20 days during the month. What does that do? It helps people monitor their finances. I guess there's a pretty good correlation between better financial health and how many times you're logging into your mobile banking app, right? So those are behaviors that they want to promote. So if you do that, they'll waive the entire subscription. So I thought it was a genius way to think outside of the box, create a more productive business model, and to incent financially healthy behaviors. All right, well, that's my content that I wanted to share with you all today. I'm going to put my new business card up on the screen there for just a moment. I like looking in the mirror. And so if you'd like to contact me, I'd be happy to send you a copy of the slides that I shared with you all today. You'll see my email address or my LinkedIn handle that's there. If your credit union is thinking about checking account evolution, StrategyCorps, that's our specialty. We help our clients think about how to make their accounts better, more financially productive, helping the financial lives of their members and their households. So if you're thinking about checking accounts, drop me a line and be happy to have a conversation about that. So with that, I'm going to take my screen share off here and turn on the chat box.
All right, Dave.
And
That was really very interesting. The ring payment, that's fascinating. Yeah, that's something I've never seen before. That was really incredible. I did get a few questions. What do you think are the downsides or negatives to fintech? Can
yeah,
you?
well, it depends on which direction that you're talking about it. Negatives for the consumers or negatives for the financial industry. I think today I'm showing you some things about if we think through the financial institution industry lens, that clearly this is changing how our members expect banking products to work.
Right.
And so the negative for many financial institutions out there is that they're just not thinking far enough ahead. Like, look, I'm not telling your community-sized credit union that you're going to go out and compete against Chase or outspend Chase. I think their technology budget this year is 12 billion with a B, 12 billion.
Right.
So you're not going to outspend them, but you have to know where they're going, right? And so my advice is you can't let the gaps get too big. So watch where everybody's going. Talk about those paths with your credit union. Keep asking that question. Hey, how are our members' expectations changing with all of this new fintech? So I think that's one concern. Another concern that I'm hearing a lot about is just the massive increases in fraud. And now with the advent of AI, there are all new kinds of concerns about how people may be able to use these tools for undesirable kinds of behavior. So as an industry, we're going to have to think about how to combat some of the fraud trends that are there. As consumers, I do see some potential negatives there. It's just having those personal relationships that we have with our financial institutions today. It's hard to have a deep personal relationship with a company like PayPal or a company like Amazon when they don't have people there. Maybe I shouldn't say Amazon. They're on my doorstep every single day, right?
Right.
Dropping
Right.
off packages, but you get my picture there.
Yeah, so what you just discussed actually ties into two questions that had come in about do you know what the financial institutions are facing compared to fintech as far as regulations and regulatory compliance? Is fintech under the same scrutiny as a credit union would be, or are they still playing catch up?
Yeah, there are some
Excuse
differences.
me.
There are some controversies around the compliance on traditional financial products versus fintech financial products. But one thing that really surprised me, the more that I study these fintech products, like if you think of that page that I had with all of those apps around the card that are doing these new kinds of accounts and stuff,
Yep.
when you download these apps and you open these accounts, you'll see that the checking accounts and the cards and the savings accounts and the products that they offer are real banking products that are offered by real banks.
Right.
So there are banks that have reformed themselves. Like if you want to study some of them, maybe you should go out and read about Coastal Bank. It's a bank in the state of Washington. They call this banking as a service. So Coastal sells its banking services to these fintech companies. They say, "Hey, we'll give you the checking accounts, and then you can put all of your fancy, features and apps on top of that, And those accounts are FDIC insured. They're
Hmm.
regulated in the same ways that traditional banking accounts are regulated, because guess what? They're traditional banking accounts. They just
Right.
have some fancy new tools on top of them. And then many of these apps are using similar infrastructure. So if you want to read about what I call the infrastructure of fintech, a good company to go out and study is one that's called Plaid. Maybe you've heard of Plaid. So
I
they
have.
offer transaction access and financial data access that many of these fintechs are using, and many banks are using. They have 10,000 banks that are utilizing and Plaid connected and helping unlock new kinds of fintech features.
So I had a question with all of these technologies, because obviously you do like to try out, these new
Yes.
kinds of payment systems. Have you personally experienced any breaches, like, or any in using like the Ring, for example, your Palm? Have you experienced any kind of like, fraud or anything using those payment portals?
I did within the last month. I had a fraudulent transaction. So I got a message from a company that said, "Hey, we've detected a transaction. Did you do this?" And I did not do that transaction. But guess what kind of transaction it was? It was a transaction using my Amex card.
Your card. Yep.
So
Interesting. Okay.
I was in Las Vegas. I was at a conference. I met one of my clients there and had them out for a dinner that night. And then the next day, on my way back to Nashville, when I landed, there was a notification on my phone that my card had been used someplace that I hadn't used it. Now, all of the other fintech services that I'm using, all those apps, I've never had any other fraudulent transactions that have occurred. Now, I'm not making risk decisions for you
Of
or your
course.
family, so
Of course.
you have to make those decisions. But here's the way that I'll describe it. I am curious. I try a lot of new things, but I'm also not a fool, right? I'm not going to go sign up for a service that I think has potential for risk. But one of the reasons that these companies are becoming and able to be successful, they're getting so many users, is that they're pretty good at security.
Right.
So they're using Plaid, they're using these great banks that are providing banking services, and so I feel really confident, choosing the leaders that are in these industries to try out the products.
And then, Dave, I actually have one more question myself regarding what you were talking about, financial health. So, obviously there is a link with fintech and fintech between financial health and consumers, like what you explained with the MoneyLion app. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering what you've seen. To me, that at least the way I was thinking about it is there's an opportunity there for credit unions to possibly help Americans in low income designated segments to improve their financial health. Do you see institutions taking advantage of that? At least when you were talking, that's what I was thinking about. Like,
Yeah.
because credit scores can be so damning, for people and discouraging.
Yes, and it's a terrific question. So certainly there are many CDFI certified credit unions that specialize and go through the rigorous certification process to be
Right.
labeled as a low income certified credit union, and they do a great job with that. Now, I'm not saying that every credit union should shift their complete business strategies to focus on low income targets or segments. But what I am saying is that maybe it's a place to think about, creating business models that allow you to become more relevant, start preparing your member base of the future. But even people that have healthy financial positions, still need to be communicated to and marketed to in the language of financial health. And that's what I think, if I'm pick on our industry a little bit, is that we've always just talked about just basic features, right?
Mhm.
And so, what, like in my business, is the checking account business. So guess what? The dominant marketing strategy of the last 2 or 3 decades has been in our industry. It won't take you very long to think of it. It's free checking, right?
Right.
So that's all we talk about is, hey, you don't have to pay any fees. You get some features, and maybe we've added some mobile banking things, but it's always feature, transaction, and we're not doing a good enough job of communicating, through the language of financial wellness, how these
Right.
products are translating. And I love that phrase, financial wellness. And I see a lot of my clients thinking about, how do we adjust our products? How do we frame our products to aim at the financial health for our members?
Great. Well, if anyone has any other questions, now would be the time to ask while we have Dave here. Dave, this was exceeded all expectations. I told you, many people spoke to me about your presentation, and it was awesome. And there were a lot of things I didn't like, the ring payment, for example, that's news to me. And the palm payment, like, fascinating to see where technology is going. It also makes me feel very old, but I'll have to stay with the times. Thank you so much for your time. As Dave
My
said,
pleasure.
he has the not PowerPoint, the slide deck available if you're interested in seeing that. And then we will have today's webinar, the recording, posted to our website. Sometime early next week, I'll reach out to all the attendees to let you know when it's available. Please come join us next week. We have a presentation on April 4th from Spillane Consulting, and that's going to be regarding the increased supervision from the NCUA on fair lending. And then the week after that, on April 10th, we're going to have a governmental affairs update from Kearney, Donovan, and McGee. And they're going to talk about topics relevant to the credit unions, to our credit unions that are being faced in Congress right now, and also the impacts of what this election year may have on legislation. And then at the end of the month, kind of tying in with what Dave spoke about today, we're going to broadcast a session from Feline called The Evolution and Impact of AI in Credit Unions. Also, we have webinars booked through May. Do look for my emails. They have more detailed information, the links to register. Please do attend. Then you'll start to see information regarding more sessions in June. And again, I just want to let everyone know, reach out to me if there are any topics of interest that you'd like to see MSIC cover. We want to make sure that these sessions are timely and relevant and covering the topics that matter to you and to your organization. So please don't hesitate to reach out, give the suggestion, and I'm happy to do what I can to bring that to you and our credit unions. And with that, I hope you all have a great day. I hope to see you next week. And again, Dave, thank you so much. This was awesome, and I'll be in touch with you.
All right, awesome. Thank
Thanks,
you. Appreciate
everyone.
you,
Take
Erica.
care. Bye-bye.